Hello and welcome to episode 24 of Bank to the Future Live. My name is Simon Dixon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of BnkToTheFuture.com. And in this episode, we're going to be going over lots of new portfolio news. We seem to have a big week of announcements from companies that are involved in the future of finance, that are portfolio companies on BnkToTheFuture.com. So we're going to go through lots of those announcements today. We're also going to discuss the new deal that just went live on our secondary market a second ago, and the roadmap for what we've got coming up ahead. For those of you that are new to Bank to the Future Live, this is our weekly broadcast where we are dedicated to just giving you the time to ask us questions at what we're up to on Bank to the Future, new investment opportunities, new deals, new portfolio updates, and new features that we've got coming live. This is a dedicated show just for Bank to the Future investors, Bank to the Future token holders, maybe those that are using BF Wallet, BnkToTheFuture.com, or any of our future products that we've got as part of the Bank to the Future ecosystem. We're all about giving you opportunities to invest in the future of finance as we move to the disruption of what we believe is the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry as traditional finance is being disrupted one product at a time by fintech and crypto companies. And so today I'm just going to go through the first part of the show, which is where we'll go through pitch updates, what's coming up, and then we'll go through portfolio updates, and then we open up the call to the Ask Me Anything, really. You can go through anything Bank to the Future related. We try to keep it Bank to the Future related. The reason being is because on my Twitter feed, I go live pretty much every day, and on my personal YouTube channel on different content around crypto, banking, fintech companies, all sorts of stuff, economic challenges. Today I gave a tweet, a live stream on what US interest rates mean for the Bitcoin community and investors in general. Today this show at Bank to the Future Live is a time where we just talk about Bank to the Future stuff for our investor community. We've got over 87,000 high net worth investors investing in the future of finance. We've had over 120 companies that have been through and raised funding from our platform, or we've invested in through the platform. And this is for our community of thousands of token holders as well that want to understand more and get your questions asked. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is jump over to my show notes, and I'm going to go through some of the new pitches, new things, new updates before we hit the portfolio news, and then we jump into your questions and we end exactly on the hour. Let's jump in. So first thing is, if you want to ask a question, there's a number of ways in which you can do that. If you're watching this on YouTube, then head over to the live chat and just ask a question there. We've got Irvin here moderating, and we've got other people. Sorry, just getting distracted by an awful loud noise here. Maybe you can't hear it, but it's definitely disturbing to me. But I think it's about to pass anyway. So we've got Irvin here moderating, and he'll go through your questions, try and pick them out. If you're on Twitter, we should be live. We should be streaming live on Twitter, and you can use Twitter Live or Periscope to ask any questions you might have there. We'll try to get one of our team members to pick them up. Or if we miss it, use on Twitter #BF Live. That's #BF for Bank to the Future Live. If you're on Telegram, head over to our Telegram channel that we set up during our token sale, which is @BF_token. And you can see our community in there and you can ask questions. Or if you're watching the recording, either on Facebook, use the comments to ask any questions. Or if you're using the recording, add your comments underneath this video. And for next week, we'll try and pick them up if we didn't get round to them, if you saw them during the recording. So the first thing to go through is pitches that are closing soon. So at BnkToTheFuture.com, we have two main products. One is our primary offerings, and our primary offerings are new deals that go live on Bank to the Future, where we're investing directly into companies. And we're doing that via our special purpose vehicle structure, whereby we set up a special company. We syndicate all the investors together on BnkToTheFuture.com. You become a shareholder in the special company, and every share is backed by one share in the underlying company. We just closed the Coin Firm round, which had a funding goal of 1.7 million and ended at approximately $1.85 million. They may be extending, and we might be getting Pavel, the CEO, to come on to a future episode of BF Live. We're just seeing if we can arrange that, where we start inviting guests to BF Live, and we can start allowing you to interact with some of the companies. But Coin Firm, congratulations. They just secured and passed their minimum funding goal into overfunding. And they're just exploring whether they're going to do an extension due to some of the exciting announcements that they've got coming up. But Coin Firm is a company that allows exchanges to comply with many of the Financial Action Task Force new compliance and regulations. And they can help companies that are doing crypto payments automate the process of complying through their Bitcoin transactions, their Ethereum transactions, and their XRP transactions with more blockchains that they'll be adding to allow exchanges to meet those new requirements. In terms of deals recently closed and put onto our secondary market is blockchain.com. The way that our secondary market deals work is the initial allocations of all secondary market deals are open just to our premium members. To become a premium member of BnkToTheFuture.com, you have to own a minimum of 10,000 BnkToTheFuture tokens. And if you own more than 10,000 BnkToTheFuture tokens, you can use them to pay your trading fees on our secondary market and get a 50% discount on your trading fees. Most of our secondary market traders use the BnkToTheFuture token to pay their trading fees because it's such a huge savings. But blockchain.com, the initial allocation for blockchain.com shares was made available just to our premium members rather than all of our qualifying investors on BnkToTheFuture. And we just put it live on the secondary market right now, which is an interesting timing because they just announced, as we'll go through during the portfolio news, their next phase that they've been working on for the last year, which is the introduction of their new self-custodial exchange, the PIT, connected to their 40 million wallets that they have registered as the largest self-custodial wallet provider in the world as far as we know. That recently went live on our secondary market. We are still in beta on our secondary market, but we now have approximately 7 of the largest companies in crypto. And next week, the team at BnkToTheFuture are all meeting to do a live demo of the new deposits and withdrawals features that we're implementing, testing, and putting through quality insurance right now to ensure that we can take on more deposit features, faster deposit features, and importantly, do that in compliance with our regulatory requirements so that we can meet all of our obligations, but also speed things up for investors that are used to, the lower barrier of crypto exchanges, while we have to adhere to security law rules and regulations and anti-money laundering requirements. So just going to take a quick water break and move to the next section. And we are done. In terms of pitches coming soon, we're very happy to announce that we are working with 3 pitches right now. We are going through a bit of a restructuring in terms of our broker-dealer partnerships and additional requirements that we're having to implement in order to adjust to new rules and regulations for US investors. And so the next upcoming pitches, they're either going to wait until we've done those additional changes and met those new compliance requirements, or they're going to be going live without US investors for now, while we just upgrade our systems as a result of trying to stay up to date with some of the changes in the US regulatory environment. We know that there is a major trend around the world at the moment to cutting out US investors from participating in crypto-based and financial products and security tokens, token sales, and all sorts of stuff, just to their stringent requirements. While we cannot promise that every deal is open up to US investors, wherever we can, we try and make that possible. That is dependent upon a couple of things. Firstly, the desire of the company to want to do that, because it comes with additional responsibilities and challenges. in order to meet some of the US requirements and securities laws and regulations. But also us making sure that we're kept up to date, and in a constantly changing environment, we often need to make changes. And so therefore, we may not be able to offer that at that time. But we're making sure that we keep up to date, because we like to open it up to as many investors that qualify as possible, and not exclude. But there is a global trend around excluding US investors around some of the challenges that the country is facing right now, trying to keep up with the crypto markets. But the three pitches that we're working on right now, and they're all going to be making decisions about whether they go live without or with US based upon us and how far we can go, is we have Concrete, which has a great background in real estate equity crowdfunding, now moving into the security token space, and they'll be announcing a partnership with BnkToTheFuture as well as we go live with their funding round in an upcoming pitch. We've got Edge, who are a wallet that have implemented a great security procedure, and they'll be announcing their next phase and their lead investors that we're really excited to announce. They used to be known as Ebit, and we did a prior round for them, but they're coming soon. And we're really happy to be getting close to the finish line for a couple of bigger deals that we're not ready to announce yet. But one of them is a company that allows you to invest in stock market using crypto, and an EU regulated firm, and it's the DX Exchange is one of the ones that we'll be launching shortly, that we're working with. And remember, these are all subject to change. They're not quite finalized, but we're still working through the final stage. And we had a really exciting call this week with one of the more established companies in crypto, and we'll be looking forward to announcing that in future episodes of Bank to the Future Live. In order to not miss any of these episodes, head over to YouTube and go to the subscribe button on BnkToTheFuture.com YouTube channel. And there's a little bell symbol, and YouTube will notify you with an email each and every time we go live, so that you don't miss any announcements and any deals that are coming up. Also remember, if you want a 48-hour head start on any of these deals, sometimes deals get completely sold out or are just exclusive to our premium members, then you've got to become a Bank to the Future token holder. In order to do that, head over to coinmarketcap.com, click on, put in the search field BFT, and click the Markets tab, and it will list all the exchanges where you can buy Bank to the Future tokens. Deposit 10,000 of them either to your BnkToTheFuture.com account in the fund section, which we will be bringing to you the new rebranded fund section shortly, next on our roadmap in terms of the release schedule. Or download the wallet, the BF wallet for iOS and Android, and connect it to your BnkToTheFuture.com account and hold the tokens there, self-custodial if you prefer to hold them on your own. Those are the two ways to do that. If you wish to pay any of your secondary market fees with the Bank to the Future token, then you have to have buy more than 10,000, have them held on your BnkToTheFuture.com account, and then you can, when you make a buy order or a sell order for any of the secondary market trades on Bank to the Future, you can use your Bank to the Future tokens to get a 50% discount on trading fees. Also, in terms of returns, remember, returns are made through Bank to the Future through share price appreciation and exit, which means that either you invest in a company that becomes a more established brand, makes it to our secondary market. While it is low liquidity at the moment, you might be able to place an order, sell it at a higher price, depending on that. Or the main way that people invest in private equity is the venture capitalists are investing for exit, long-term, high-risk, high-return returns. And that's achieved through either an exit, where they eventually go public on a stock market to produce an exit event, or there is a management buyout or some kind of buyout known as an MBO, or they are acquired by another company. We've got examples of all of those. Bitstamp was acquired by another company. Many of the larger companies might be moving over to IPO status, but not many of those are happening in the crypto markets right now. One interesting thing is whether they all end up going to the security token market and skip the IPO. These are all possibilities for exits and returns as these companies grow and become more and more valuable. But one thing we did have, which is a rarity, it's not really a normal thing, but we had two companies that were paying out dividends, very old companies in terms of Bank to the Future. One of them is Bitcoin Capital One. They paid out a dividend in Bitcoin, and most of the funds that were originally invested due to Bitcoin price appreciations have been returned through dividends. So congratulations to Bitcoin Capital One holders. That is no longer open. It won't have a secondary market. Will return to pay through dividends. So it would have been some of our earlier investors around about 2015. And one of the very early deals, a bit of a distressed company that has been through challenges, Startcoin Holdings. They received a sum as a result of a holding in Bitcoin Capital, and they distributed all of the returns to their shareholders. Good to see, as it's been a bit of a problem company as they have been through challenges over the years. So we like to share some of the challenges that some of the companies have been through where we can, and also some of the turnarounds that they've seen as a result of some of the crypto assets that they're holding and being able to reallocate those to investors. So head over to, if you're an investor in Startcoin Holdings or Bitcoin Capital One, head over to the investor zone and you'll be able to get the updates for those of you. And you can withdraw those dividends that you might have received either in the fund section of your account, or you can reinvest them into another deal that's accepting Bitcoin in the primary markets. For the secondary markets at the moment in beta, we're only accepting Tether, as you need to deposit Tether to your account. But in the coming weeks, we will be opening up fiat deposits as well, as we're really excited at rolling that out in the new fund section and the new redesigned fund section of your account. In terms of secondary markets now, remember, we do not guarantee liquidity in these things, but we have an OTC market for those of you that want to place buy and sell orders, maybe catch up on some of the deals that you've missed out on, or add more diversification to your portfolio with some of the larger companies in crypto. But now today, with the launch of the blockchain.com SPV, that is added to our BitPay SPV, our Kraken SPV, our Circle SPV, our Bitfinex SPV, our Coinbase SPV, and our Ripple Labs SPV. What does that all mean? Well, we hold, as we said earlier, special purpose vehicles, special companies that we set up that hold shares in some of the largest companies in crypto. You're not actually trading those companies, you are trading our SPV, and you can put together a buy and sell order, and we have a process for putting together qualifying investors subject to lock-in requirements and all local regulations that you might have. Currently, the secondary market is not open to the US because that would require additional applications before we can open that. We will look to make those over the coming years, but right now, US can't participate that in a compliant way. So at the moment in beta, so yes, the way that it works is every share in the SPV is backed by one share that we hold in the underlying company. And you can buy and sell those and build a portfolio of the largest companies in crypto via our SPV structure without that causing lots of destruction and challenges to the companies that can't have lots and lots of shareholders, because then they might have to be a public company and they're not at that stage yet. So this is how we open that up. And we've now got 7 secondary markets live. Join us next week on Bank to the Future Live to get the next deals that we'll be adding. And we're looking to get to 10 deals before we come out of beta and add those additional features. And also, we were discussing in the episode last week, if you did not watch it, we went through the roadmap and how we're going to come out of beta for the secondary market, what goals we need to achieve in order to do that, and also some of the exciting announcements around deals that haven't qualified for the secondary market yet and how we categorize them. So you can head over to the YouTube channel where you can see the complete archive of all of the previous episodes of Bank to the Future Live and catch up. Other updates in terms of products, we announced the discontinuation of GBP and Euro deposits for our secondary market and for our automated new features. We are sticking to one currency as the base pair for all of our secondary market deals. And so anyone that had a deposit, we would have emailed you. There wasn't many, but we've converted all of those over to USD right now, so you can use them on the secondary market should you choose and top up your balances. With Tether at the moment, with fiat coming soon. The reason that we're doing that is because the goal of how we're going to do this is we're going to have one base pair on BnkToTheFuture.com, which is USD, but introduce new features in the future where you can take your local currency and it can be converted to USD via a partnership. It requires additional regulatory requirements that we have to meet in order to achieve that feature, but that's the reason why we discontinued GBP and Euro balances, because there's nothing you can do with them anymore on the platform. We've got the new fund section, which the Bank to the Future team are meeting tomorrow to do a demo, and then it's going to go through a quality assurance process before we release that to our premium members and Bank to the Future investors so they can test that out. And we've also got coming up the Bank to the Future identity for individuals. We're very excited about that. We covered in previous episodes of Bank to the Future Live how the Bank to the Future identity solution is going to work, and how that connects to the Bank to the Future token, and our roadmap for different features that we'll be releasing around the Bank to the Future identity. Phase 1 was organizational accounts. We've got a bit of a backlog on verifying organizational accounts, so please be patient as we go through those. But then we're switching Bank to the Future individual accounts to Bank to the Future identity solution, so that that can be used for other products within our ecosystem. For example, the Bank to the Future exchange that we're planning for a 2020 launch around that. So that's all the different updates that we got for you on the Bank to the Future ecosystem. New pitches live, new features, new returns. And without falling off my chair, I'm going to now head over to the portfolio news. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me a second while I do that. So I'm now going to share my screen, and at the same time I'm going to switch off my camera, and Irvin will interrupt me if for any reason he can't see the screen right now, or you can't see. Do let us know in the comments if there's any issues there so that we can get those addressed, and Irvin will pick those up as moderator and let us know. So just to recap, before we go to the portfolio news, this is where you see all the new and previous deals on our primary markets. You'll see that Coin Firm has closed right now, and we're working on a new restructuring for the upcoming deals. You won't find any primary market deals live right now, but you can see the previous ones should you be interested. And here in the trade section, you can see all of the markets for our secondary market. We're still in beta, remember, at the moment. But what we also did is we reordered them in terms of liquidity. So the most liquid markets on the for Bank to the Future SPVs are now at the top, and it goes down in order of liquidity in terms of new trades. Obviously, the blockchain.com just went live just before this, so there's not much liquidity on the newer ones, and they're probably waiting till we come out of beta, which creates an interesting opportunity for you to get deals before they are allocated, and get those at maybe potentially discounts to when we come out of beta. We'll see. So those are the different features there. If you wanted to become a premium member, then you simply log into your account, head over to the fund section. You can see the Bank to the Future token there. This will all be redesigned in the coming weeks, as we discussed. But for now, you can deposit some Bank to the Future tokens there and go through the process. You need to purchase those on the exchange in order to have those tokens. We've also got a little section here for if you're applying for finance. If you're a company, then you can apply here. And we've also got a section here for the wallet where you can download it for iOS and Android. And then you can connect that to your BnkToTheFuture.com if you want to hold your tokens in a self-custodial way. Currently, the wallet supports security tokens issued through the Bank to the Future ecosystem, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the Bank to the Future token, as well as Tether for USDT. We'll be meeting our blockchain team to discuss the roadmap for the Bank to the Future wallet and upcoming blockchain-based products that we'll be looking to work on and roll out as our models become more decentralized as well as our centralized models, so that investors can choose which ones they want to go for. So let's pick up some of the portfolio news. So the first story we've got for you is blockchain.com launching the pit. We're really excited to see this. I think this is going to have a really big impact in terms of self-custodial exchanges, because blockchain.com is the largest self-custodial wallet from what we know and the publicly reported figures. They've got approximately 40,000 self-custodial wallets there. Just going to play a little clip here so you can see what they're up to with the pit, but they're giving the ability to connect your blockchain.com wallet in order to trade in a self-custodial way. And as more and more people adjust to these behaviors of owning their own assets and trading through self-custodial exchanges, we're really excited to see this movement as more and more centralized exchanges get hacked, and now people can be responsible for holding their own assets. Let's have a look at the video.
Hope this works. Everybody, down! Hands up! Bag in the money. Put the money in the bag.
Trying to secure your financial future with plain old money, huh?
Just put the money in the bag, will you, please?
Sure. It's just that if you really want to grow your portfolio, you should probably be trading crypto in the pit.
What's she talking about? What's the pit?
We tried trading crypto, but our exchange was so slow.
Yeah, not to mention how often we got locked out of our account.
You should try trading in the pit. It's a brand new crypto exchange powered by BnkToTheFuture.com. It's actually really fast and reliable.
Damn it, why didn't we think of that, Bill?
You idiot, you used my real name.
Bill, from spin class? I thought that was you.
I was there once. Get up now.
Okay, so really excited to see that development right when we launch in beta the secondary market SPV for blockchain.com. So as far as I know, the only way to get exposure to blockchain.com is either being a venture capitalist and participating in any of their future funding rounds they may have coming up, or they use us to do a primary listing in the future, or you can do that through our secondary market right now by depositing Tether to your account, qualifying to invest, and participating in the growth of blockchain.com. So we're really excited to see that. I'll cross that one off. There was loads of stories this week from our portfolio companies. So Kraken basically has hired a new OTC guru, over-the-counter trading guru, to be head of the development for Bitcoin futures platform. So great to see that Kraken, who recently closed their Series B funding round on BnkToTheFuture.com, and is now live on the secondary market for those that want to purchase shares via one of our SPVs that are backed by Kraken shares. They can do that now. So great to see Kraken going from strength to strength. We also had an announcement from Abra. Abra was one of our portfolio companies. They recently did their Series A funding round with participation from BnkToTheFuture investors. Not so great news, unfortunately, but Abra has an app which allows you to get exposure to ETFs, exchange-traded funds, stocks, shares, as well as cryptocurrencies via a synthetic swap product, which is a complicated way of allowing you to collateralize using Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and putting that collateral on the line in order to gain exposure to different financial assets, and using Bitcoin as a collateral so that you don't need to sell it when betting on or exchanging different products. But due to regulatory challenges, they have exited the US and are not allowing US customers to use that product, unfortunately, as US decides how they're going to move forward with their regulatory situations for the market. So unfortunately, restricting to US, but hopefully this is going to lead to some interesting pressure in terms of as we transition to financial markets that are mainly domiciled outside of the US, and creating a more competitive environment for the US to adjust and decide how they're going to adjust their regulations as we move to a more and more competitive market around the world globally. We also had an announcement, so the USDC stablecoin, which is operated by one of our portfolio companies, Circle. Circle is on the Circle SPV, is on our secondary market for those who want exposure. They own crypto-to-crypto exchange Poloniex, which last week unfortunately announced that they will be moving many of their operations outside of the US as well. But the USDC stablecoin is starting to get some analysis on it, and they audited over $10 billion in client assets via the USDC stablecoin. So there was a story out there, and that is all under the Circle as the holding company who operate the USDC stablecoin. Also, a more sad story is over on my Twitter feed at Simon Dixon Twit. I gave an update on the situation with India and cryptocurrency. Just to make it clear, it has not been banned, but there was a proposal to ban it. And the Indian authorities, whoever came out and said that there is no ban at the moment. And really, India has become the new China in terms of, but way back in 2013, for those that were around in the crypto markets, the future of Bitcoin was really flip-flopping around based upon what China's decisions were. And China decided to air the very first ever documentary on national TV around Bitcoin, which drove a speculative frenzy in the Chinese exchanges for Bitcoin. And the way that China tends to operate is if it gets on TV, it's because the government has deliberately decided that they want it on TV. But then they flip-flopped around whether Bitcoin should be banned, whether it shouldn't be, whether it should be, whether it shouldn't be, whether it should be, whether it shouldn't be. And they flip-flopped around that, and then that led to the exchange ban, and now a flip-flopping again around their policies around that and blockchain, realizing that they want blockchain, but they don't want the tokens or the speculation or the exchange, but they kind of come with each other because a blockchain without a token is a database and nothing innovative at all. But now India has really been performing that role. It's banned, it's not banned, it's banned, it's not banned, it's banned, it's not banned. And different authorities coming out giving their opinions as they're adjusting. And I gave lots of my perspective, not the opinions of Bank to the Future, but my personal opinion on India and crypto. You can head over to my Twitter feed to see that live, or head over to my personal YouTube channel as well, Simon Dixon, where I gave more perspective on that. But one of the companies that we funded through Bank to the Future, UnoCoin, has really been a casualty of the situation with India deciding whether it's legal, not legal, whether it's going to be banned, not banned, whether banks are allowed to interact with crypto companies or not. And unfortunately, it tells the story of what's happened to UnoCoin as a result of these. An important reminder of the risks associated when investing in private equity, especially in financial technology companies. The regulations really are an important part of the future of those companies. We haven't had an announcement yet from UnoCoin of a complete closure, but the situation in India is not looking great, and they've had to downgrade lots of their growth plans and staff accordingly while they're in stealth mode. So there was an announcement there, and you can check out the story here on UnoCoin. We also publish all these stories when we get them on the discussion forum. So when you're on BnkToTheFuture.com, every company that's either in the primary markets or secondary market has a company page. But where you can see all those companies that have been involved is you can head over to the companies page here, and you can see some of the company pages. But if you look up, for example, UnoCoin, you should be able to see the UnoCoin company page. And you see a bit of a history of the funding rounds that they did with us, pitches that were involved with UnoCoin. And anything we get, we try and post it here on the discussion page. The discussion page is where we, qualifying investors that haven't invested in the company can have a discussion. But the investor zone is where companies that have invested in the company can get their updates and interact with the company team and other investors as well. So we try to get those all, we try to put those updates there as well. Another announcement was around Bitfinex, which is the most frequently and liquid traded company on our OTC secondary market for our SPVs. And the Bitfinex SPV is the one that has the most volume because they have obviously a lot of speculation around their situation right now as the New York Attorney General's situation unfolds itself around Tether and their recovery plans and what they're doing. But the judge put the discussion on hold, and I think that it was on hold for another 3 months while the Bitfinex, Tether, and New York Attorney General situation unfolds. So that was the update. It was put on hold for 3 months, and we'll find out. We'll update you as we get future details on what's happening with Bitfinex. Another story related to Bitfinex was iFinex, the holding company. They own Tether and Bitfinex and other companies, including Ethernex and TokenX, their IEO platform, and various others. But Tether has announced, here's Adam back here, announcing that their stablecoin has launched on the Bitcoin sidechain created by Blockstream Liquid. So for those of you not familiar, that the Liquid sidechain is a sidechain that was created by Blockstream, and it allows people to benefit from all the security of the Bitcoin blockchain, the most secure blockchain in the world, while simultaneously creating their own chains to create different use cases for Bitcoin, so that we can take some of the different use cases and benefit from the Bitcoin ecosystem while simultaneously having a Liquid sidechain. And Tether is experimenting with taking some of their token supply and put it on the Liquid sidechain. Great update to see. Really excited about where Liquid can go. And also they recently announced integration with Lightning Network as a scalability solution for the Liquid blockchain as well. So very interesting to see these things coming together as more and more can be done upon Bitcoin after all these years and conservative scaling solutions. We also had blockchain.com covered already. They're the largest wallet, just launched their first, the crypto exchange, which is now live now. So we've covered that news already. One of our other portfolio, well, two of our portfolio companies, Securitize, who have developed a security token protocol. The Securitize protocol is integrated with the BnkToTheFuture wallet. We did our first security token issuance through the Securitize protocol on the BnkToTheFuture wallet. I know that's a major mouthful, but a lot of these technologies are converging on each other. But Securitize has announced that they've done their first 10 deals now, and good to see more and more people using the Securitize platform that we'll be integrating with and partnering with as a portfolio company of BnkToTheFuture, but also backed by one of our other portfolio companies, Coinbase. The Coinbase Ventures arm was one of the supporters of the Securitize protocol in terms of an integration, an investment through their Coinbase Ventures. More news from Kraken, another one of our portfolio companies, recently closed their Series B. For those of you that invested in the Series B, we've got approximately 20 more investors that we're completing some additional documents that we're going to need them to do in order to close the deal. We're giving them until Friday. So if you have received an email from BnkToTheFuture support and you were an investor in Kraken and they were requesting additional documents, you've got till tomorrow to provide those documents. And unfortunately, if you haven't provided them, we're going to have to issue a refund because we need to move to close, because there's lots of other investors, over 2,000 investors, that still see it as pending in their portfolio and would like us to move to the close. There were a lot of investors, so we'd like to move forward with that. But Kraken also, we should be moving to the close next week, so that you'll see the update and issuing share certificates. But Kraken made another announcement where they boosted their institutional offering with the acquisition of Interchange. And so you can read a bit more about what Interchange is. Essentially, it's a service for their hedge fund clients, providing more data. And we look forward to seeing how Kraken continues to grow and through acquisitions. So it's really exciting to see. And that is the final announcement that we have. So I'm just going to do a quick check-in on time. So we are 40 minutes through, and that leaves us about 20 minutes for Q&A. So Irvin goes through the live chats, the different places. A reminder, if you're on Twitter, use the Twitter live in order to ask a question, and we'll try and pick those up. Or if we miss that, use hashtag BFLive in order to get our attention. If you're on Telegram, use @BF_token in order to ask a question. If you're on YouTube, then use the live chat, or if you're watching the recording, use the comments feature. And if you're on Facebook, then use the Facebook comments underneath the Facebook live version of this. And we'll try and pick those up. But Irvin's going to pick out some questions. And while he's doing that, I'm just going to take a quick water break and then put my face on so that you can see me as we do 20 minutes of Q&A. So Irvin, are you there?
Yep. I'm just getting the first question. So,
okay,
first
so you
question.
can see me now, and I'm just going to exit from screen share, which should be that button there. So hopefully you can just see my face now. And we'll pick the first questions. What have you got for us this week, Irvin?
Sure. Okay, first question. What's the liquidity like on the secondary market? Is there anywhere else you'd be able to take the asset and seek it, or is it limited to the BnkToTheFuture secondary market?
Okay, so good question. So at the moment in beta, liquidity is low. We still anticipate it's not going to be like a cryptocurrency exchange. The market for private equity is patient money, long-term, high risk, high return. It's not going to be a high frequency trading market. We don't anticipate that happening. This is an OTC market where long-term investors can build a portfolio. And at the moment, liquidity is low because at the moment we're not really promoting it. Tether is the only option for deposits, and we're still in beta. So we have announced on Twitter updated stats. I think we're at approximately $2 million of liquidity in beta in the different markets, but it's low liquidity at the moment. And liquidity is one of the risks when investing in such an asset class like this. In terms of can you take those assets off the platform? Well, we have to hold the SPV in a centralized way. You don't own shares in the underlying company, you own shares in our SPV. But part of our goal in the future, as we develop the BF wallet further, as we develop the self-custodial exchange further, is to give you the option to be able to take those off the centralized platform and over to one of our exchanges so that they can be traded against BnkToTheFuture tokens, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies, rather than just US dollar as it is on the centralized platform, BnkToTheFuture.com. We don't have an exact path and roadmap for how we're going to achieve that goal, and we're not sure exactly how it's going to be achieved, but we anticipate using our partnerships with Blockstream through Liquid, the Liquid network, and Securitize through Ethereum-based security tokens in order to explore those opportunities in the future. But those will be very experimental, and we'll see what the demand is from investors and as we roll out those processes. But at the moment, the only place to trade the SPVs is in a low liquid, high risk, high return environment like BnkToTheFuture.com to build a portfolio and diversify across many of the largest companies in crypto. Next question.
Okay, second question. What do you think about tokenizing assets, such as real estate? If it's realistic to tokenize assets, how will it affect the market? That's a question from the live chat.
So I believe that fractional ownership of real estate is a really, really important product for financial inclusion in the future. I really believe in the mission and vision of people being able to invest in real estate globally with smaller amounts of money so that they don't have to get a deposit or own the whole asset. And fractionalized ownership is a really important part of that. I think that using protocols like tokens and security tokens are really an interesting way of doing that. And one of our upcoming companies that will be listing on the platform, Concrete, is actually doing just that through security tokens. Which protocols we'll use? I think that people will be using Ethereum, Liquid. I think other chains are a bit more speculative at this stage. But I do believe that we are going to gradually, whether there's a benefit to it or not, move over to the tokenization of all assets. And the security token industry is going to grow on a similar path that it did with ICOs. So with ICOs, the concept was first incepted in 2013 when there was the original Mastercoin protocol, which later became Omni. And then Vitalik started working on that and then came up with the idea of Ethereum because they couldn't get the changes in Bitcoin. And then the ICO boom happened once Ethereum was launched and we had the ERC20 standard. And that whole process was about 4 years until we had the ICO boom and later bust. So there was about 4 years before that. But I think we'll get a less speculative frenzy in security tokens just due to the nature of the regulations that will be implemented around them. So hopefully you can not have that boom and bust cycle that tokens are going through right now, and they're adjusting to the high quality projects as it's moving to IEOs and various other things. But I think tokenized assets is going to be a thing. I think it's going to lead to, rather than having silos of centralization like the New York Stock Exchange or the Tokyo Stock Exchange and people having to choose which stock market they list on, I think they'll be listing security tokens, and the New York Stock Exchange and all sorts of crypto exchanges will be competing to list those exchanges, and users will be able to take those assets on and off those different exchanges and pick which jurisdictions they want to trade those security tokens in, just like you do at the moment with cryptocurrency exchanges. Obviously, they will also be looking, it's a question of who they'll be attracting as the market. The crypto investment market is a very speculative market. They look for very high risk, high returns. But institutional investors, as they enter the crypto market, they're more conservative. They're looking for more realistic returns where high risk is something like 10% per annum, as opposed to multiples of your investment. And so it's going to be a question of who's going to drive the liquidity initially. The market will determine that as we evolve, and we'll be bringing more and more deals for you to invest in the equity of the companies that are building that infrastructure, so that no matter what happens in the infrastructure, you'll be able to benefit from the companies that are building it in long-term, high-risk, high-return equity investments via our SPVs.
Okay, so we got another question from the live chat. Are there any plans in working with Polymath with regards to security tokens?
Sure. So Polymath, we were investors in their initial round. We are happy to work with Polymath. We regularly have meetings and catch-ups with the team, and we're more than happy to partner with the Polymath team. I know they're busy launching and working on their Polymesh. I think they just announced Polymath 3.0, and we look forward to seeing what they're going to be doing next as more security tokens work on the Polymath ecosystem.
Okay, great. Next question. Any updates on when US investors can start participating in the secondary market?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be for a long time. At this stage, very few applications, which would be, so there's a couple of models. There's a brokerage model. If we can figure out a brokerage model, which I think is something that might be achievable, then that could be done faster. But then there's also an ATS model, which is an alternative trading system model. To get an ATS at the moment, the SEC is only allowing companies that have acquired, and I think they are having some challenges as well. And so they haven't approved, as far as I know, any ATSs for new companies applying. And so the US really, in order for us to open it up, is dependent upon US regulations. And the last time we were involved in US regulations, BnkToTheFuture was involved in making changes that allow for, in the UK, to invest in private companies. And then as a result of that success, the US created something called the Jobs Act as a result of seeing what was created in the UK. But from the time they announced that to the time that it was actually implemented, there was about 4 years. And then it didn't really become that popular. And it turned out that using it for securities tokens and initial coin offerings via a simple agreement for future tokens was one of the use cases that were driving that. So, I don't hold my breath in terms of the speed at which those things can change. And because they have the most to lose from disruption, as obviously the incumbent with the most liquid, deepest, and most successful stock market in the world.
Okay. So next question is about blockchain. So will the profits from the pit also be part of blockchain.com, or is it a separate entity?
We own, the SPV owns shares in the parent company. Every share in the SPV is backed by one share in the parent company, and everything's being done under the same parent company, but there will be a complex structure behind that. As we don't have information rights, lack of information is one of the risks when investing in such companies. But it's been done under the parent company. The good thing is that there's lots of VCs that have invested in blockchain.com, and they will ensure that any subsidiaries as a result of that will be under the parent company and that structure. So yes, is the answer.
Okay, so right, we got a question about Bank to the Future. So can you tell us more about the Bank to the Future team and how big it is?
We try to keep this under wraps. The reason for that is we introduce new team members when we can, but anyone involved in crypto is their team being involved in this industry means that you become a target for hackers. And publishing all of your team is not necessarily the right thing to do for the security model. And so the best approach in maintaining the integrity and security is to not make more details than necessary available about your team members, because that's the secure model. So you tend to see that with many cryptocurrency exchanges. So we don't publish all the details about our team members, but we have a team of about 35 people involved with the different products at BnkToTheFuture.com, and we are engaged in several acquisitions that will increase the size of the team. So rather than publishing specific details about that, we like to give our team members the right to not be public figures. As the CEO, I put my face on the line here, but it's not a very sensible strategy to get all of the team members to be public figures as well and publish details. It's important for our security model.
All right. Next question. Which are the next upcoming secondary market listings?
We haven't announced those yet. But if you tune into Bank to the Future Live next week, we'll be announcing the next 2, I believe, or 1. And you'll have to tune in next week, unfortunately. Don't like to announce things if there's any risk that they won't happen. We like to over-deliver and under-promise rather than doing the just-in-sum strategy of over-promising, under-delivering, and then having to apologize because you're doing excessive PR rather than just working on delivery. We like to deliver things and announcement once they're delivered.
All right. Next question. Many companies are focusing on securities tokenization. What do you think is the most important feature of a company that they should look at?
In terms of, if I understand the question correctly, so there's kind of like, the old analogy is, do you invest in gold or do you invest in the shovel? And shovel are the companies that are actually supporting the security token ecosystem. Then you've got the actual security tokens. This is not financial advice. You need to do your own research. You shouldn't use this in order to make your own, we're not investment advisors. You shouldn't use this to make financial decisions or investment decisions. But my personal approach would be investing in the infrastructure companies. They're going to harness the growth of the security token ecosystem, and then start looking at the growth of the looking at the actual security tokens as more of the infrastructure gets built. That's exactly what I personally did with Bitcoin. Is we invested in Bitcoin, then started investing in all the companies that are going to build the infrastructure. Some of those went bust, others went on to become unicorns, and the exchanges were the most profitable companies and the most number of unicorns, and others kind of sat in the middle. So I would suggest that I'll be looking at the infrastructure around the companies that are going to build out the security token ecosystem, looking to do it traditionally through equity, and then they'll be tokenizing those at some point as liquidity starts to pick up. But if history is the same with security tokens, the exchanges tend to have been the most profitable parts of the ecosystem, as well as the issuers and the protocols that are going to allow you to build these security tokens.
All right. Next question. Can you explain the purpose of a stable coin, and what happens to the stable coin if the currency being reserved, such as the dollar, devalues or goes into hyperinflation?
Cool. So that's a great question to close on, because I think we're reaching the end of the hour. So one thing that might be interesting to you is I created a video on my personal Twitter feed. This is not the opinions of the company. These are my own personal opinions on that particular video. But you could search it in YouTube or on Twitter, called 6 Forms of Money. And it goes through all the different types of money. And one form of money that I covered was what's known as a reserve currency, and a stable coin, which derives its value from an underlying asset. And so Tether and USDC and Paxos and DAI and all of these other stable coins that have come around, just listed off the top 4, they're essentially a way of you being able to transfer value from exchange to exchange, from wallet to wallet, from hardware wallet to hardware wallet, without actually having to go through a bank in the middle, which is a hugely valuable thing in terms of the speed that you're able to either speculate or hold different assets and move them around. So let's say you're on one crypto exchange and you hold some Bitcoin, and you wanted to move over to another crypto exchange, which was trading an alternative token. But in the meantime, you didn't want to speculate on the price of Bitcoin or the price of that alternative token. And so you could hold it in a stable coin called Tether, which is pegged to the dollar or some other stable coin. And therefore, it is designed specifically, and it doesn't mean that it always achieves that goal, to always be priced at $1. So what this does is it allows you to very easily and quickly stay in crypto if you are bearish on some certain crypto assets, or bullish on crypto assets. You can move into and out of these stable coins. And if all the exchanges accept the stable coin, then it means that you can get from one exchange to another really fast. I think this is going to be important for a few financial products. For example, as you can collateralize crypto assets in the future and receive interest for collateralizing them, then I think people are going to convert fiat currencies into stable coins and get above average interest than they would at a bank by using stable coins instead. It's also going to be useful for going between crypto to crypto exchanges as it is today. And as more and more people enter the market, as Facebook launch their cryptocurrency, if they launch their cryptocurrency, then you can interact between all these ecosystems without actually having to use the bank, which is very useful. And banks essentially become custodians, which is moving towards a more full reserve banking model. However, it is all backed by a fiat-based Ponzi scheme. So if the fiat-based Ponzi scheme goes through challenges, as I cover in many of my personal opinions, not BnkToTheFuture's opinions, then you end up with an asset that might not be so stable. And so it's all speculation at the end of the day. But as long as the system's alive, the dollar is a stable currency to hold value short term, and stable coins allow you to transact and move money around short term by staying in crypto. So it's a very useful product, a very useful innovation. And what would happen in a hyperinflationary environment? Well, if you own a stable coin that is backed by a hyperinflationary currency, then you'll end up with a hyperinflationary stable coin if it maintains its peg to that. And there's no guarantee it will maintain its peg. But so far, Tether has, through thick and thin, maintained its peg, despite some of the things that might be happening. But if you want to move to a more US regulated type of product with US regulated protections, then you might use other products like USDC, operated by a US company, which is actually migrating out of the US for some of its products, which is Circle. So I think that's a great place to end. Great question. Please do like, share this video. Please help us grow our community of qualifying investors interested in investing in the future of finance. Retweet it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, BnkToTheFuture.com, where we go live each and every week. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell symbol, and it will send you a notification every time we go live. We are on 24 episodes, and that's going to do it for episode 24 of Bank to the Future Live. Thank you, Irvin, for moderating. Thank you for everybody for giving the questions. And thank you to our portfolio companies for providing lots of news and updates. And we look forward to bringing more and more investment opportunities as we transition to what we believe is the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry, one step at a time, as fintech companies provide solutions from traditional finance. And we'll see you next week at episode 25, Quarter of a Century, the 25th episode of Bank to the Future Live. Over and out.